Hey guys, it is Mandy here with the Steel Reel, and I'm touching on a pretty serious situation that happened to me with my access rights with my service dog Steel at an establishment that you would never think in a million years that I would have access right issues with. Before I get into what happened today, I would like to just touch on a very serious topic, and that topic is leaving your pets at home. Unless your pet has been trained as a service dog and you have the proper paperwork that is required for a service dog, do not bring your pet into public venues that do not allow animals. It is a safety issue and it is a liability issue. If your dog were to attack me or my dog, if your dog were to attack a child, if your dog were to destroy the facility that you are at, you are going to be required to pay for damages, medical costs, and any other kind of distressing impact that you have on that individual's life. It takes many years, it takes thousands upon thousands of dollars to train a service dog. Service dogs usually cost anywhere between $25,000 and $32,000 to train one dog. And so now this dog is a medical needed device in order to save that individual's life or to prevent them from serious harm. And so if your fake service dog is causing harm or distress to us as individuals, you are now going to be liable for paying all of those costs. And that is probably going to be inclusive of a lawsuit because you've now impeded in that individual's life and you've taken away thousands of dollars from them, plus the emotional distress that you've caused them or their service dog. And you're also causing some major access issues for us individuals that actually have certified service dogs, that actually have dogs that have the training and the paperwork that are required. And you're making it so that establishments are discriminating and segregating individuals that actually have a medical device with four legs and a tail. Most of the time it has a tail, excuse me, not all dogs have tails. However, regardless, off topic here, you are making it more difficult because people can tell that your dog is a fake service dog. People can tell when you say, yes, this is a service dog, when it is running around barking, acting like a goon, acting like a dog rather than a medical device, a service dog, that it is a fake service dog. And because you are deciding to be selfish and you're trying to take your pet into a place and claim it as a service dog when it's not, you are causing severe access issues to people that actually need their service dogs. They've been prescribed it, they've trained it, they've put in countless hours for it. It is selfish, it is not okay, and it needs to stop. Today's situation really affected me. You can probably tell I'm pretty worked up. I just got home from it recently. It got to the point where I was physically shaking. I was trying to give out these access cards, which is the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act access cards that tells businesses what they are allowed to ask and what they are not allowed to ask. The only two things that a business, is allowed to ask is whether it is a service dog and what the service dog is trained for. And from those two questions alone, the facility can determine whether or not that dog has access rights. A facility is not allowed to ask for certification and or proof that it is a service dog, The issue that I ran into today, I was shaking. I was mentally distraught. I had a hard time putting out sentences, as you're probably seeing a little bit of the remainder of here in this video. I tried to calm myself down a little bit before I started making this, but I also wanted people to see how distraught that this actually made me. It made my blood pressure skyrocket every time I go. They do take my vitals, and I'm always usually phenomenal on my vitals. Today, my blood pressure had skyrocketed. I ended up rubbing my forehead so hard that I ended up getting a bruise in the middle of my forehead. It got to the point in this conversation that I ended up having Steel alert me so significantly that I needed to take like a 30-second break from the topic, the conversation that I was having, not with the first individual that I had to teach today, not with the second one, but with the third. So it was only at one facility that I had access issues, but it was 3 different individuals that I had to have this interaction with. By the third person, to say that I was distraught and affected negatively is just putting it nicely. Anyway, so it was a very distressing situation for me. My first interaction, I went to my psychiatrist's office. Yes, I go to psychotherapy. No, I am not ashamed of it. The medication that I am prescribed is what saves my life every day. There is nothing to be ashamed of about that. Mental health is a very, very common illness. Over 40% of Americans alone have reported mental illness, and most people don't report mental illness because of the stigma and the negative effects they feel like it's going to have on their life. However, if you look at the number of 40%, that is still astronomical. So just imagine all the people out there that actually deal with mental health issues and they just don't talk about it. So I went to my psychiatrist today. Psychiatrists are able to prescribe service dogs. Steel is partially my mental health service dog and also mobility service dog. However, I did get prescribed my service dog by my previous psychiatrist, which was not at this facility. With that being said, though, you would think that a facility that is able and is prescribing service dogs to its patrons would know all of its access rights and what they are providing and what is required of dogs and handlers before they are sending out prescriptions. I don't know if this facility actually does prescribe dogs or not. I've never gotten it prescribed there, so I can't attest for that. However, regardless, in a facility where they're going to have one of the highest trafficking of service animals, you would think that they would know that what the access rights were. So I went in, and the front desk lady told me that I needed to provide her with the certification with Steel. Yes, I do have a ID card that says that Steel is a certified service dog. Yes, I carry around the paperwork that says that I need to be prescribed a service dog. However, because the ADA does not require me to provide either one of those things. The ADA does not require Steel to be in a service vest. It does not require him to have any visible markings. He does have to have a marking somewhere, so he actually has one on his dog tag on his collar. However, I don't have to bring him in a vest. I do not have to have a certification paperwork and or a doctor's letter in any regards. The only thing that I have to do is be able to answer the 2 questions of, is that a service dog? What is it trained for? When I told the lady that she was breaking the law by asking individuals if they had this paperwork, she said that she was just doing what her manager told her to do. Okay, I can't fault her for that. That's fair. It's the way it was said, the way it was done. I tried to give her one of these ADA access cards that I mentioned earlier that tells them what they are allowed to ask and not ask, and she absolutely refused to take it. And so she said before she would allow me to have access, she would have to let me talk to her manager. She goes to find a manager, and she's gone for a long time, to the point where I'm now late for my appointment. The nurse comes out, grabs me, and the nurse, I actually interacted with 2 nurses today, and both nurses were so upset for the situation that I had been put in and through that both nurses asked me to fill out a customer satisfaction report and a customer communication report and send it into headquarters to ensure that they are understanding of the issues that are going down at their lower facilities here. So once I went in with the nurse and she took my vitals, she saw me physically shaking. She took my vitals. I informed her that my blood pressure probably had skyrocketed. It had. I then went in to see my psychiatrist. At that point, I had to teach my psychiatrist what a service dog access rights were. And I had to teach her that regardless of the business establishment's regulations, the only regulations that a service team are required to follow is federal and state regulations. And so even if a facility says, oh, well, we require you to see your paperwork, well, you are now going against the federal and state regulations that are affected by that state. And so I am not required to go by your standards. I am only required to go by federal and state standards. And some people are probably going to hound me and give me a hard time saying, you know, hey, since you did have your certification ID card and since you did have your doctor's letter, why didn't you just show it and get it over with? It's because every time that someone does give in to that pressure that you have to have this ID card, it makes it harder for the access rights for other individuals with real service dogs to have access rights in the future. Say I forgot my ID card at home, and the next time I come, they say, well, you don't have it, so you can't come. That's not okay. Even if I don't necessarily agree with what the standards are in the United States for service dogs and their registration requirements, regardless, I am going to go by what that law is at the time, and I am going to go by those laws only. So you can hound me all you want. I'm not going to change my mind on this. I should not be discriminated against. I should not be segregated because I have to have a medical device, which is a service dog. So after I taught my psychiatrist, who is allowed and able, I'm not sure if she has, but she is allowed and able to write prescriptions for a service dog, I then had to speak to the manager of the facility, who did understand the fact that they could only ask if it was a service dog and what the service dog was trained for. However, she did admit that she was the one that required her staff to ask for her certification proof. And the conversation did go fairly productive. She did say that she would speak to her staff because I should have never been told that I would never not be allowed to have access if I didn't have this paperwork. I go to my psychiatrist because it is a safe space. I find it very difficult to leave my house. I have PTSD. I have a severe anxiety disorder. I have agoraphobia. I cannot leave my house without my service dog. I can barely leave my house even though I have a service dog. And so when I go to places and I have access issues and I have to face confrontation, which I don't do well in confrontation, clearly since my entire body was shaking and my heart rate skyrocketed, it makes it difficult for me to leave my house again. It makes it difficult for me to try and even be a somewhat normal human. Not saying that people with these disabilities aren't normal. I feel like in my scenario that I don't feel for myself that I am normal because I cannot do these interactions with the outside world without my extra assistance between medications and my medical device, Steal, my service dog. For anyone else out there that also suffer through these, please don't take that as an offense. I am not trying to say that you are not normal. I am just referring to myself in this scenario, that I am trying to live a normal life. The only way that I am able to do that is by having my service dog with me. And when I run into confrontations and access issues, especially at a place that I consider a safe space, where it's supposed to be a confidential place, my psychiatrist, my psychologist's office, it makes me leaving my house that much harder the next time. So I'm going to reiterate this one last time. Please leave your pets at home, not only for the cost and expenses that it will cost you if your dog were to attack another individual or another dog, but also for the fact that it is a very selfish act if you don't need your dog with you and you are causing so much more distress and confrontation and discomfort for the individuals that actually do have real service dogs, that actually have all of the required training and paperwork for service dogs, and it's just not right or fair. I hope that you learned something from today's video. I will see you all in the future. Have a good day. Bye-bye.